Hey everybody, I'm Kennon Maurer, your local real estate agent and lifestyle guide here in Lacey, Washington. You know, I really love this place, the trees, the trails, the community, but today I want to give you a side of the story that people don't always hear. Today, we're talking about the reasons not to move to Lacey, Washington, because no place is perfect, and I believe in being honest and upfront so that you can make the right choice for you. So let's dig in. So let's talk about how the cost of living is higher than the US average. Let's start with money because, well, that's important. Lacey's cost of living is about 25% higher than the national average. Housing is a big reason for that. Homes cost significantly more here than most areas of the country. The median home value is around $465,000 to $470,000. Median rent in this area is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month, depending on size and location. So if you're coming from somewhere with lower housing costs or tighter budgets, Lacey can be a shock to some people, and you might pay more for less in some cases. Another thing is that property crime is higher than the average. Here's something that people should really consider. Property crime in Lacey is noticeably higher than the national average. Your chance of being a victim of property crime is about 1 in 34. One report shows property crime is 54% higher than the US average. By contrast, violent crime is lower than the national average in many categories, but it's property crime, so burglaries, theft, vehicle theft, that tend to happen in this Lacey area. Neighborhoods matter, but this is a thing you'll really want to look into carefully if safety of your stuff and your peace of mind matter to you, which I'm sure they do. Another thing is rainy winters and almost constant dampness. Now, for the weather stuff, if you love sunshine year-round, be prepared for damp, gray winters. Just some quick data for you. Average annual rainfall in Lacey is around 50 inches. Snowfall is pretty modest. You get around 9 inches per year in most reports. And what that means is outdoor plans might be curtailed more than you'd expect. So if you're someone who hikes, bikes, or spends a lot of time outside, the winter dampness can wear on you. Good rain gear helps, but you'll probably have more indoor days than you're used to, especially if you're coming from a drier climate. I one time had a client move here from California because they wanted more nature views and open space. They wanted to be around trees and all of that. They really loved that part, but in their first winter here, they kept remarking about how damp everything was. Their clothes, their shoes, when they walk outside, it's muddy and dewy and wet. And they paid more than they thought they would for heating and for different clothes in the winter. They weren't used to that. Another thing is elevated daily costs beyond housing. It's not just houses and rent. Once you live here, you'll feel it in the groceries, the transportation, and just your daily cost. For example, grocery prices are a bit higher than the US average. Transportation and fuel tend to cost more than many places, and commuting tends to add up. Utilities are kind of mixed. Most are lower. Some might be higher. It just depends on what exactly you need. But overall, your monthly bills will likely be higher than what you might have paid somewhere else. This means even with good income, your disposable income may shrink relative to what you had in other places. Another thing to consider is the commute and location trade-offs. Lacey has a lot of great access, but there are trade-offs depending on your work, location, and lifestyle. Average commute times are often in the 20 to 25 minute range for most local jobs. And if you're commuting into Seattle or Tacoma or other further out metro areas regularly, that travel can really add up. Public transportation around here is decent locally, but it's not like living in a big city where everything is super connected. So if you rely on transit or want walkability or very short commutes daily, that can be a downside of living in Lacey. Also, sometimes distances to certain amenities like big city nightlife or large specialty stores, etc., require more drive time than some folks expect. One time I had a buyer who fell in love with a property up near Hawks Prairie, gorgeous setting, a big lot, trees, quiet. But when we calculated her commute to work, school drop-offs, grocery stores, all of that, she realized that she was going to spend an extra 30 minutes a day in traffic. And over a week, that's 2 to 3 hours she didn't have before. And that extra time is something that people sometimes underestimate until they actually live here. Home price appreciation means less affordability over time. So here's a more subtle reason. Growth in home values is good if you own, but it means entry costs keep going up. Median home values have been rising, so if you're waiting to buy a house, what you can afford now may feel pretty different in just a few years. We have property taxes, maintenance, insurance, they're all going up. And so for people moving in, that means you'll want to plan not just for buying, but for all the costs that are going to come after. If affordability is high on your priority list, this is something that can kind of suck, honestly. Another thing to think about is just seasonal lifestyle limitations. This is more about the quality of life than numbers, but it does matter. Winter days are shorter, wetter, grayer. If you're used to sunny skies, that can actually really affect your mood. Outdoor recreation is really good here, but it's often seasonal. So trails, lakes, camping, boating, all of that stuff, they're amazing, but sometimes wet or muddy or just not as accessible in the winter is what you're gonna get. So if you love getting out daily, especially outdoors, you'll adapt, but there is a season where you'll spend more time indoors. I've had lots of clients say, wow, I didn't realize how long the winter just kind of drags on. I thought I'd be outside more, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to expect. So I like talking about the downsides because I want you to go into a place with your eyes wide open. But Lacey offers a lot, and for many people, the positives outweigh the negative. There's a great community feel here. There's great proximity to nature, trails, lakes, good schools in many neighborhoods. It's close enough to Tacoma or Seattle to get those big city services and amenities without all the congestion. This area has generally peaceful neighborhoods, especially outside of certain higher crime pockets. So it's really about what matters most to you. If after all this, you're still considering Lacey, here's some things I would recommend that you do. I would recommend visiting this area during a rainy winter season and see how you feel with the weather, the daylight, the wetness. I would drive the commute that you'll actually have. Do it at rush hour. So, anytime between like 3 and 5:30, see how much time it takes. Check the crime rates by neighborhood. There's some areas in South Lacey that tend to be safer, and then some Northwest and Northeast or Central Lacey neighborhoods might have more property crime incidents. Another thing I would consider is to budget carefully for everything, not just your mortgage or rent, but car maintenance, gas, insurance, groceries. Plan for those costs rising. And then talk to locals, people who live in the area. Ask them about what it's like, what bugs them, what do they enjoy. And that's going to give you insight you won't get from just stats alone. So those are my top reasons not to move to Lacey, Washington. I'm not saying don't move here. What I'm saying is go in with open eyes, know the trade-offs. If you value nature, good schools, a slower pace, Lacey might still be perfect for you. But if your priorities are low cost, year-round sun, short, minimal commute times, urban hustle, some of those negatives might weigh pretty heavy on you. You should also check out my reasons to move to Lacey video so you can balance both sides side by side. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with somebody who's maybe thinking about moving here. And if you have any questions about the neighborhoods, the costs, or the lifestyle in Lacey, drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to dig in. Again, I'm Kennon Maurer. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.